With all of the flooding and torrential rainfall through May and into June, you might think the crop year is off to a bad start. In this week's Bottom Line, TWILA's Neil Melancon tells us that if a field is not flooded, the rain has our growing season off to a roaring start.
The Bottom Line is brought to you by the Cotton Board, strengthening the fiber of our industry.
As the Luke Bryan song goes, rain makes corn, and that certainly has happened here lately. Many agronomists and grain traders alike were expecting that between flooding and disease, we'd see a sharp negative impact on our crops. Not so much, according to the latest USDA numbers. Look at the emergence numbers for corn at 97%. We're 2% over compared to the 5-year average. Now, there was some deterioration in the good to excellent category, but only 1% down from last week. That does represent rain and flood damage to some extent, but one thing to consider would be this huge growth in the crop. A 1% loss can be more than made up for by ears that are both full and large. Moving on to soybeans, we're seeing 75% emergence, which is an 11% gain week on week. It's a bit below the 5-year average, and the quality of the crop is down 2% from last week. However, the overall condition report for beans, like corn, is above the 5-year average, and again, a drop in quality can be more than made up for, especially from some of those Group 5 and 6 beans that have yet to be planted. The bottom line is, as much as I hate to say it, the flooding we've seen hasn't made much of a difference on the national stage. That's not to lessen the impact of the torrential rainfall we've seen and our farmers have suffered, particularly those in the northwest corner of the state. It's just to say that what has been a deluge here has been a timely rainfall in the Midwest, which is shaping up to have an even larger crop than last year's record. And Avery, one of the heartbreaking things you see is these flooded fields right next to ones that, well, just aren't flooded, just chock full of this tall green corn that you know is just going to produce a superlative crop.
Well, whenever I was up there in Natchitoches Parish over at John Danley's farm, he has 4,000 acres underwater. The last area to flood is rice. So, you know, it's just what it's hitting, especially here in Louisiana. And, you know, we were all hoping for another record when it came to soybean yields and that sort of thing. But I think that poor John Westra over there at the LSU Ag Center is going to have to say, you know, we're not going to have another record here in Louisiana.
Not for Louisiana, no, but nationwide it may, you know, it's shaping up for that. And that's just kind of one of the, you know, sad ironies, especially when it comes to price, because not only will these farmers be hurting for that, but they'll be hurting, you know, when it comes time for this harvest to come in, and that prices just hit hard. You know, one of the big problems is that you have this situation where even though you have this great crop with corn at $3.50 a bushel, you're deciding whether or not to spray again, and that's, you know, another risk out there for that crop.
Well, you got to watch your inputs, and I know they're going to be listening to you on the radio. Thanks a lot, Neil Melancon. Well, that does it for this edition of TWILA. You'll see this show again next week while we cover the 93rd annual meeting of the Louisiana Farm Bureau Federation in New Orleans. The following weekend is the 4th of July, so we'll be back with our special show from the Crescent City on July 11th. Until then, you can watch any of our stories from this show or past shows on twilatv.org and keep up with what we're all doing during the Louisiana Farm Bureau Convention by following us on Twitter, liking us on Facebook, or just search the hashtag LFBF15. For all of us here at TWILA, I'm Avery Davidson. Thank you for joining us. We hope to see you again right here next week.